us a little bit of an update on like the transformation of SLB and the role you see the company playing, like I think in the biggest energy story now, the huge growth of AI data centers.
Well, look, we've been an energy company. Next year will make 100 years that the company's existed, and somehow always occupied a niche of being the technology company that works in the energy space for a long time, upstream oil and gas, and today. And then around 2020, we started to look at this whole energy transition challenge and see what was the part that needed energy innovation and where could a company like us have something to contribute. And really, our capability is around looking at very, very complex technical problems, somehow solving them, producing a product, and taking it out to everywhere in the world, right? And we have a bit over 100,000 people, more than 80 countries, all of that kind of thing. And we can deliver some pretty sophisticated solutions to customers across that scale. So then my division in the company was formed around 2020. In 2022, we rebranded the company. Formerly Schlumberger to SLB, and introduced that decarbonization curve into our logo to be very clear about the statement of what it is we wanted to do. And since then, we've been building businesses to somehow impact that, making investments. I look after the venture capital piece of the company in promising technologies and startups that we think we can help in their journey and can be part of our portfolio. And then building more and more scaled businesses across the space.
You mentioned decarbonization, so I want to dig into that a little deeper. What's the real challenge, I think, at the heart of that when you balance both the needs for decarbonization and then the explosive energy growth required for data centers?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a broad need for decarbonization across all industries, but maybe we'll talk to data centers. That's one of the most pointy drivers, if you like, at the moment. If you take a look at, we're working with all of the hyperscalers at the moment. And if you take a look, the way that we contribute to helping them with their challenge is really in a first degree way and a second degree way. The first degree way is they need to get data centers built, and those data centers need to be efficient, and they need to be delivered reliably and very, very fast, right? And as a company, we know how to deliver equipment that's high quality industrial scale equipment anywhere in the world very, very fast. So one of the, part of the company has stood up a manufacturing division. We have a factory in Louisiana that employs 1,000 people today that will this year deliver, I think, 630 megawatts of the equipment needed to cool and manage temperature in data centers and energy to 14 different hyperscaler sites. So there's a piece around, okay, can we help the whole data center market move faster, which is one of the challenges it has. The second piece is, can we get them clean power? So our geothermal business is over 50 years old, and right now with everything that's going on, it's growing extremely fast. We've always been, the leader by a huge margin in the subsurface, but recently we've teamed up with a company called Ormat that many of you may know that is actually very, very capable, the largest builder of binary power plants in the world. So now we're able to approach the market and say, here's a full geothermal asset that you can switch on, and a developer or an asset owner can write a PPA to a data center customer. So there's that part in geothermal, and the same goes in abated gas. So right now, the fastest vector to power is gas in the United States particularly. And there is a premium that these companies with their sustainability credentials want to achieve from decarbonizing that gas. So we have a carbon capture and storage business that is growing extremely well. We have 2 plants operating, 2 more under construction, all for producing power, and another 5 in engineering at the moment that we're starting to scale out. And I think, if I recall, there's some of the estimates are there's about 50 million tons of potential abated gas just coming out of the data center demand in the United States. And then obviously we have a storage business as well, so we play in both parts of the value chain to try and streamline that and be able to actually deliver that to customers.
So that touches on a little bit of the new technology innovations that are solving some of this. Like, what are some other things, like from an innovative standpoint, that you're excited about, that you see that are being brought to bear to solve some of these challenges?
Good. I mean, I think from a technology innovation point, every part of this market is evolving rapidly. We have for every plant we deliver, we have 1-2 different technologies under the hood in R&D that can cut the delivered economics in half or improve it by that amount. So there's a tremendous amount of back office engineering going on, but then there's also value chain innovation. So I was talking about those other examples as the first degree of separation. The second thing that we're doing is 2 things. One, I think Katharina was on stage before talking about cement. When you build data centers, you consume building material. Maybe it's cement, maybe it's steel, maybe it's other materials. So we're working with those customers. In fact, the technology in the plant you referred to is ours, to be able to create industries that are decarbonized. And similarly, on the other end of the value chain, we are creating and enabling negative carbon projects. So pulp and paper is an excellent example in the United States. Pulp and paper is very negative in terms of emissions if you store the carbon well.
Right.
We have a company called CO280 that is a developer that's building out this whole industry, and we're doing the same for waste to energy and for power from biomass and so on in Europe. So in that way, the credits generated by that are bought by the hyperscalers and the data center customers as another pathway.
Like a much more comprehensive
for them to do. Yeah, so
specific.
you're actually touching every part of the value chain through technology solutions and being able to do that at scale.
A great part about Climate Week is just like the wide width of people that are here, like looking at ways to help. What is your advice for folks in the room when they go back to their companies or their countries or their agencies? Like how they can better be a force for good? How can they partner, collaborate with some of the goals you have?
I think there are a few different. It's a huge question because there's no doubt a very broad and sophisticated range of people here. I think removing friction is really useful. I mean, purposefully looking at where there's a barrier in the system to being able to move forward in a good way, particularly if you're somehow involved in the regulatory space, whether it's somehow being able to get a grid connection faster, or a permit achieved faster, or a project stood up around that's got great environmental credentials faster. That's one. The second is to understand really the technology mix in the value chain. These are complex value chains, right? And we have carbon storage projects in the world waiting on carbon capture.
Right.
And we have carbon capture projects in the world waiting on carbon storage. And the reality is there's a certain amount of momentum that these industries need to be able to get up to scale. So anything that you can that people can do in that space is great. And then be inquisitive and be a voice for technical truth is really our backbone. And I sometimes say to my team, and I know this is, we need money, we need great regulation, and then we need engineers to build a solution.
Right.
And
I think let's spin that forward a little bit. We're about to get the hook here, but in the minute we have left, give us something optimistic. With that whole picture, what makes you optimistic about us being able to solve these challenges in the future?
I'm extremely optimistic.
Why?
I think from the journey that we've been on the last few years, we've seen things go from ideas on a piece of paper. But I have a business that was a piece of paper 3 years ago that's actually turning on a scale demonstrator going into a steel plant today. And I can see serious companies and across every industry space really starting to get traction and gain momentum. And that's not necessarily the frothy stuff that you see in the news every day, but underlying all of this, I can see real traction.
On the real basics, not maybe gee whiz stuff, but really fundamental type things are moving more quickly.
Yeah, real full-scale plants, real large projects, real things that show the world that you can actually have an impact on that carbon curve.
Right.
They're starting to happen now, and that vector is only accelerating. And so I feel extremely
That's
positive.
A great positive note to end on. Gavin, thanks for being here. Thanks for SLB for making the conversation possible. Amy Harder is going to come back up and continue the conversation.
Thank you.
Gavin.